Good evening. This is CTV News for Monday, August 19th. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Byron Scott. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, the police officer accused of the chokehold death of Eric Garner has been fired by the New York City Police Department. The announcement of the firing of Daniel Pantaleo came 5 years after the death of Eric Garner.
In this case, the unintended consequence of Mr. Garner's death must have a consequence of its own.
The announcement came this afternoon by Police Commissioner James O'Neill.
Therefore, I agree with the Deputy Commissioner of Trials' legal findings and recommendations. It is clear that Daniel Pantaleo can no longer effectively serve as a New York City police officer.
I told you the last time, please leave me alone.
It was July 17, 2014 on Staten Island. Daniel Pantaleo, along with other officers, approached Garner on the suspicion that he was selling single cigarettes known as Lucy's. When Pantaleo attempted to arrest Garner, the suspect pushed his arms back, and that's when Garner was put into a chokehold, a technique which is banned by the department.
Every time I watch that video, I say to myself, as probably all of you do, to Mr. Garner, don't do it. Comply. To Officer Pantaleo, don't do it. I said that about the decisions made by both Officer Pantaleo and Mr. Garner. But none of us can take back our decisions, most especially when they lead to the death of another human being.
It was while Garner was restrained that he repeated the words, "I can't breathe," 11 times.
We will be going to the state of New York to ask that they begin to make it illegal by law, the use of the chokehold. This was a New York policy, New York City Police Department policy. It ought to be a state law and a federal law that chokeholds by police is punishable with a crime, not just termination.
Garner later died at an area hospital. Pantaleo was suspended from the force, but a grand jury refused to indict the officer. The U.S. Justice Department refused to bring criminal charges against Pantaleo.
Commissioner O'Neill, I thank you for doing the right thing. I truly, sincerely thank you for firing the officer. Regardless to however you came up to your decision, you finally made a decision that should have been made 5 years ago.
The Garners and Reverend Sharpton say they will continue to push for the other officers who were there that day to be disciplined.
Prince George's police are investigating the circumstances that led to a man dying in an ambulance after being taken into custody early Sunday morning. He's been identified as 38-year-old Kevin Antonio Jesse of Kings Manor Drive in Bowie. Police say it was a rideshare driver who noticed a man acting erratically and going from door to door in the neighborhood.
He called 911 and stated that he observed a male walking from home to home, knocking on doors. That male was described as naked and appeared to be under the influence of something. As the fire EMS ambulance was arriving, the individual in question became more agitated.
And Stawinski says that when Jesse went into acute distress, his handcuffs were removed as paramedics requested, and they performed CPR on him for what police say was an extended period of time. The investigation continues, and officials are awaiting autopsy results.
A group of Laurel police officers spring into action to help a woman who went into labor on the side of the road in Prince George's County Friday night. The driver flagged down Laurel City Police shortly before 8 o'clock at Van Dusen Road and Route 198 in Laurel and told the officer his wife was in the passenger seat in labor. Police say with the help of a first aid kit and a few minutes to spare, they were able to deliver a healthy baby girl.
Officer Bright coached the mother right through the labor. The child came out. By the time the child was out, Fireboard was just approaching, and they took care of it from there. But it was an experience. I'm glad that the mother was safe, the child was safe, and it was just something that you never know what would happen whenever you put the uniform on.
And police say after the baby was delivered, she and mom were taken to a hospital for routine care.